Welcome and thank you for tuning in to today's video. Today I want to make a video on the MPC One Plus. It's the beginner's guide to the MPC One Plus. Now it's going to be a little different. I do want to cater this towards people that are just getting started. And just keep in mind, I am going to have timestamps at the bottom of the video. So if you want to skip the intro and just get to a specific part of the video, be sure to jump into any part of the video. Most of my subscribers are people that are new to the MPC. So I want to make this video, and my goal at the end of this video is I don't want you to feel like 100% you have mastered the MPC. What I want to do is just show my process on how I make music with the MPC One Plus. My biggest takeaway that I want you to pay attention to is look at what pages or what windows of the MPC I'm mainly using. The MPC is very complex. I do not use everything that the MPC has to offer. I only use a certain percentage of what it has to make the type of beats that I make. If you're new here, I'm sample-based beat making, and my main workflow is very simple. It's just a drum track and a sample track. Sometimes I'll add a bass, but I'm not too complicated. I'm not adding 20 tracks or 10 tracks. Now, that's just the way I work. So if that's something that you resonate with, and I feel like this video is going to be helpful because I want you to pay attention to the certain pages and areas of the MPC that I'm using. Again, I'm going to summarize what I'm doing on the MPC. I will not be explaining every detail of what this button does and what that does. No, I just want to show you how I'm using it. And my advice for you, if you're just getting started, is if I'm using the browser page, the main page, or the sample edit page, look further into these pages and study them very well. There's so many videos on YouTube that are for free. If you simplify it like that and you focus on those pages or on those areas, it's going to be a lot easier to learn this instrument. And then later on, once you feel very comfortable with that process, then you can start learning the different types of tracks that it offers or the different types of pages, but you don't need to overwhelm yourself when you're just getting started. All right, so with that out the way, if you are interested and you're like, you know what, I actually want to know every single button, what does this do and that, I do have a course from start to finish that I explain everything with no edits, no cuts. I take my time, I sit down with you, and I go through the whole entire process. You do not need to purchase my course. There's a lot of content for free, but if you're just like, you know, I don't have no time to surf through YouTube videos, if you just want it directly from the source, I'll leave a link down in the description. Go ahead and hang out with me. It's about 4+ hours, and we go through the whole entire MPC from start to finish on how to make a beat. So with that out the way, let's get right into it and start making a beat on the MPC. All right, so right here I have the MPC. I just turned on the MPC, and when I turn on the MPC, the first page that it greets you with is going to be your main page, which is right here. This is the main page. This is very important for you to get familiar with. I highly recommend investing some time to figuring out what is everything, how is everything laid out. One thing I will let you know, do not get overwhelmed. You don't have to learn everything on that main page. As you're going to see how I'm building a beat, I'm not utilizing everything that you see right here. The main things that I want you to focus on, at least with the main page to get started with this, is just know that this is the sequence that you're currently on. It says I'm in sequence 01. This is how many bars are in this current sequence. This sequence is just 2 bars. As a matter of fact, if you're following along and you just want to follow along with me, I highly recommend just set this at 2 bars. Start very simple. Don't overwhelm yourself. Don't try to start with 8 bars or 12 bars. Start with 2 bars. And right next to that, you're going to see the tempo of your sequence. This is at tempo 80 beats per minute. Yours might say 120. Ignore that right now. We're going to switch the tempo later on in a few minutes. And down here in this section, you're going to have all of your track information, like what type of track you're currently on, and also what's the name of the track and what you want to do here. If this is a drum track, you could either browse for samples or you can just start sampling into into your MPC. Now, why am I saying the type of track and what kind of track we're looking at? Because the MPC has 6 different types of tracks. Now, what are these 6 different types of tracks? I go over all that in the course. Now, you do not need to know what these different types of tracks are. It could be very confusing if you try to tackle all this down from the first day you open up your MPC. Don't worry about that. If you're making sample-based music, if you're using the MPC as an actual sampler, all you need to get familiar with is this type of track, which is a drum track. What is a drum track? Well, you're gonna see the number 1, and right next to number 1 is a 4 square icon. That shows that this is a drum track. The drum track is very important for us to get familiar with it because it's going to contain audio samples, audio chops, everything that you see with these 16 pads. If you have any audio in one of these pads, that's going to be a drum track. Now, if you hit that little 4 square icon, you're going to see you have a key group track, plugin, MIDI, CV, audio. Don't worry about those. If you make one of those types of tracks, you are not going to be able to put audio chops into each individual pads. Only drum tracks will allow you to trigger the pads with audio samples. Now, this is the most used track because this is a sampler. If I want to load up drum one-shots, guess what? I'm gonna do that using a drum track. If I want to sample from a record and chop that up into my pads, what type of track am I gonna use? It's going to be a drum track because that's going to contain audio samples onto each individual pad. Now, the question will be, how do I bring in samples or audio into these pads? There's 2 ways you can do that right here using a drum track. You have one option. You can either browse for samples. That's if you have an SD card and you have some preloaded one-shots or drum breaks that you've purchased. You can load that into your SD card and you can browse it and load that into these pads. Or you could either use this record or the sampler right here, which will technically sample into the MPC. Anything that's plugged into inputs 1 and 2 on the back of the MPC, you could start sampling that and start putting this into each individual pad or just bring it into your project library. Right now, I just want to bring in some drums by browsing those samples on my SD card. How am I going to do that? I'm going to go to Browse and I'm going to go to my Places tab. And I have my SD card right here, which shows keys. I'm gonna go into a folder right here with a bunch of drum breaks and just surf through. Let's listen to what we have right here. Ooh, that sounds good. I like that. If I like how that drum break sounds and I want to load that on a pad right away, I could either just select any pad that I want to load that sample onto. I'm gonna put that in pad 1. I hit load, and guess what? Now that drum break lives on pad 1. If I go to back to my main page, you'll notice that on track number 1, which is a drum track, I already loaded a sample. It shows this pad being lit up blue, and if I hit that, we already have our drum break being triggered. If I want to load a different one-shot or a different sample on another pad, I just select that pad and just repeat the same process. Awesome. So we have a drum break right here. Now, how do I figure out the tempo, or how do I determine what tempo is this drum break and how do I match the tempo of that drum break to the sequence? There's many ways you can do it on the MPC. You could either go into your sample edit, select 1 bar loop and count how many beats, and it will give you the exact tempo. I don't like to do that. I mean, there's extra steps you have to go through. It's a lot more accurate. I like to just tap out tempo using this tap tempo button right here that's lighting up. I hit the drum break and I just tap tempo, and it will indicate in real time the tempo that this drum break's at. All right, it's at about 85 beats per minute. Is it perfect? I don't know. We're about to find out. As you notice, it says 85.23. Make sure you put it exactly at 85, or if you want an actual number, because that 0.23 might kick you off a little bit. So I'm gonna put this exactly at 85.00. Hit do it. I wanna hear this, make sure this is actually on tempo. I'm gonna record this on to my sequence. Awesome. It sounds perfect to me. 85 beats per minute. Everything sounds synced up. So we already determined the tempo of that drum break that I'm using. I'm going to stick to 85. That's the session, or that's the sequence tempo as well. I matched it. We have drums and track number 1, and we already matched the tempo. So follow what I'm doing right now. I want you to pay attention as I'm going through the video. If you need a little bit more help with, oh man, how did he tap the tempo out? Take your time, pause the video, bring in some melodic or drum shakers or percussive instruments, load it up to a sequence and tap out the tempo. Take your time. So far, all we've done is just learned about the drum tracks, how do we browse for samples, and how do we detect the tempo of a drum break or of a sample. It doesn't have to be a drum break. I could have had a melodic sample or just listening to a record. I just tap out the tempo and it will tell me the tempo that record's at. Awesome. I mean, look, guys, we're halfway through, all right? I know it sounds kind of crazy, but we're really halfway through. Right now, I want to add a brand new track, and on the next track, I want to start sampling into the MPC. As simple as that. I'm going to hit new track at the bottom left-hand side, and right here is going to ask me what type of track do I want to create. Again, if I'm going to sample and chop up sample chops onto my pads, what type of track is that going to be? It's going to be a drum track. Now, it's going to give me the option, do I want to browse for my sample, or do I want to jump into my sampler and start sampling into the MPC? In my case, I want to sample into the MPC. I already have my computer plugged into inputs 1 and 2 on the back of the MPC. So that means once I hit play on my computer, I'm going to see the levels jumping up and down. Pay attention to this page. After this video, I'm not going to go over every single detail right here, but I would highly recommend type in YouTube, the sampler page on the MPC. And if you really want to know everything about this, I'm sure there's tons of free videos. All I need you to know is just getting started is just there's 4 different ways for you to sample into the MPC. You do not need to know all 4 ways. Do not waste your time. Don't overwhelm yourself with trying to figure out what is slice mode, what is pad hold. Forget about that. I'll just tell you right now, to save you some time, the 2 most important methods of sampling into your MPC is going to be your sample and your pad tap. Sample is just you sampling from the start of wherever you want of your record, and then you automatically or manually hit stop, and anything from the start and the stop, that chunk of audio is going to be stored inside of your project library. Easy, right? Then you can go into your sample editor and you can start chopping that up and export that into a track. We're not going to do that today. Today, I'm going to show you pad tap. Pad tap is my favorite way of sampling into the MPC. The reason why is because it just saves you so much time. But keep in mind that pad tap, the way it works is sampling into your MPC and you're chopping up your samples at the same exact time. So you could eliminate the process of you having to go into the sample edit, chop up in the sample edit, create its own sample track after that. Like, you don't have to do that. In pad tap, you sample and you chop up at the same time. Now, one thing I will mention is you got to be careful with this pad tap mode, because if you are not too sure on how you're going to chop up your record, then this could be a problem. You have to know how you want to chop this up. But most of the time, as I'm listening to music, I already have an idea of how I'm going to chop up that record. So since I already have an idea of how this song sounds and how I want to chop it up, I don't need to go to my sample edit and do the chops there. I can do it right from the start right here. So let's go ahead and take this from the top and start sampling. Now, the way this is going to work is as soon as I hit a pad, it starts sampling onto that pad. When I hit the second pad, it creates a chop. The third pad, another chop. Fourth, another chop, so on and so on. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit play and we'll get started right here. All right, so I just went ahead and I probably skipped through this part. I don't want to get a copyright, but I just sampled into pad or bank A, B, C, D. I filled this up with so many chops, and I did it all at the same time while I was sampling into my MPC. Now, all we have to do after this process, just go to your main page, and as soon as we're on our main page on track number 2, guess what? We already have everything chopped up. The reason why I'm very big with just the pad tap a sample method is because I talk about this a lot on my videos, but there's this energy that I hear when I'm listening to a sample. I haven't even started making a beat, but when I hear a sample and something triggers and something clicks in my brain, there is an idea that is just so new to me that there's this energy that's not going to last forever. I hear it, and as soon as I hear it, I try my best to capture it as soon as I can. Now, these slices or these chops are not perfect. They're not right on the downbeat. I'm sure some of them have some clicks, pops, a little off. That is okay. I'm not trying to land for perfection right now. I'm just trying to capture my idea. My idea is a bit messy, is a bit scatterbrained right now. If some of these chops are a little off, I'm totally fine with that. I'm just trying to record or capture my idea as soon as I can before I lose track or I lose sight of why I chose to sample this record. I'm already on my main page. I already have those drums queued up on the background. All I have to do now is figure out the tempo of these sample chops to those drums. Am I going to have to pitch this up? Am I going to have to pitch it down? Do I need a warp, time stretch? We're about to figure that out right now. I'm going to hit play and hit some of these pads to see how off this sounds. Okay, so we're completely off right here. The drums are a lot slower and the sample chops are being performed a lot faster with the tempo. We have different ways to tackle this down. You could either use time stretch, warp, or you can pitch this up or you can pitch this down. It is not a right or wrong way, whichever method you want to go with. My favorite way of matching tempos is just pitching this up or down. The only problem with pitching up or down, you're obviously going to lose the original key of the sample. I'm okay with that because I like to switch up my sample. I like to get something and at least put a little twist to it, whether I pitch up or down and then chop it up and resequence some of these chops. I like to do that. So I like to change it up. What we're going to do right now is I'm going to pitch this down a few semitones. How do I start pitching up or down? Here on the MPC, you're going to have this program editor, or is now in 3.0, it's called a track editor. If you hit this track edit button, it throws you into this page. This is your track editor page. There's a lot going on right here. Again, do not freak out. Don't get like, oh my God, what is all of this? There's so many different tabs you can tap into. Don't worry about that. All we're going to go over today is just your global tab and your sample tab. Right now on global, I'm not going to explain all of this right here. You don't have to worry about that. All you need to know is that if you go to this global section, the semitone, you either pitch up or you pitch down. Oh, that sounds awesome. All right, cool. So I just pitched it down. I don't know if this is going to match, but I'm going to hit play on the drums. If this sounds good to me, I'm going to stick with this. Okay, all right. So that sounds awesome. Look, guys, it's so fast. I'm explaining. I'm trying to take my time and move very slow. But when I'm not filming, this process where I'm at right now, it would have took me from me turning on the MPC to already having my sample, my drums synced up the way I have it right now. This is probably like 7 or 8 minutes of time from turning it on to the point where I'm at right now. Right now, we've gone over, 4 different pages. Pay attention to those on your own time. Look deeper into how do we get familiar with those pages. There's so many other pages right here that I'm not going to go over. And the reason why is because I hardly ever use it. What you see me doing right now, it is my method that I always use. So this is just like I turn on my MPC, I get the ball going. I'm already having fun. I'm already chopping up records. Look, we already have our sample chops. I'm ready to start recording. But before I even record this part, I cannot talk about this or teach it because it's just not something that you can learn. This part right now is just using your own creativity. This is so unique. It's going to be completely different from what you hear in a sample. I rock with some of these pads. I can bang through different bangs and look for some chops that sound good to me, the other ones that don't. This process right now is my favorite part of making music. When I have my drums and my sample and I'm just trying to figure out the sequence that I'm going to take, that's my favorite part of this whole entire beat making process.
I want you to do. There's a little girl.
Oh, this is so cool. Look, this is what I meant. My chops are not perfect. I'm already eating the snare right here. It's okay. If I need to back off from that, the down slice, I could go back to this program edit. And now I go into the samples page. Again, pay attention to this page right here. I'm not going to go over everything, but this is an important page for you to look into. I'm going to zoom in right here. And I'm going to back off from that slice. All right, this is cool. I like these 3 chops. I don't like this because his voice sounds kind of weird and I'm like, it's gonna get annoying too quick. Luckily, I sampled into all of these banks right here. So I have about 64 different chops in all of these banks. There's so much for me to pick and choose. This is, again, this is the art of sampling, and this is how it gets fun. Is like, all right, I only like these 3 beats right here. But now I need to look for that downbeat. Boom. I need to look for that so I can add that before these 3 pads. Where is that going to be? I'm not sure. I can just surf around right here. This is a downbeat, but his voice is there again. So I don't like that. So I'm looking for a downbeat that does not have vocals. I'm going to bang through. This sounds cool. These 3 chops also sound cool, but that's not going to be it. That's not it. Oh. Oh, okay. You know what? I actually like this just bass note. Boom. It's just a bass note with nothing in the background, and then it jumps into those 3 chops in bank C. So it can be. Woo. All right, let's hear that with the drums. Oh, all right. So now I'm banking through. Now, this, again, if you're a beginner and you're just watching, it could be a bit confusing trying to perform as you're banking through different banks. Like, it could be a bit confusing. I'm pretty comfortable with banking and performing at the same time. But if you're not comfortable, again, remember this MPC makes everything very simple and easy to record any idea. If that's your case and you're like, all right, cool, I want to get a chop from one bank, record that, and then some different chops from a different bank, but I don't want to do it in one take. Do it slow. Look, no one is looking. Nobody's in my studio. I'm not performing to an audience. It's just me by myself. So I don't have to show off that, look, I can do this and I can do that. No, I can just simply go to bank A. I like that. I'm going to hit record, play, start. That's it. I just recorded this. Now, so I can see my notes that I'm recording, another page to pay attention to, go into this GUID edit page. This GUID editor is so helpful. I'm not a musician. I always say that on my videos. I cannot play drums. If I had a band in front of me and I had to follow along with them, I cannot follow along with them. So I like to see my notes, and if I need to nudge some notes over, I like to see what I'm performing right here. So right here on the downbeat, I already have that first note. So now I go to bank C and I need to add. So I'm going to hit record overdub and play start, and then just continue after that and just add these 3 beats. That's it. Awesome. That's so simple. I'm taking my time. As you notice, here's the 3 beats down or up here, and then there's that first hit. If you got to do that again for the next bar, go ahead and do it. We are already have 2 tracks, our drums, our sample. We already sequenced something right here. Listen, if you are part of my Patreon, download, I'm gonna share with you these sample chops. I'll share them with anybody that's on my Patreon. Load this up onto your MPC. Follow along with me. Go step by step. Or if you're pretty advanced on the MPC, recreate your own flips with some of these sample chops. But I like to just share these resources. People like to follow along and just do exactly what I'm doing just so they can get comfortable with their MPC. If that's you, go ahead and follow through. Link down in the description for my Patreon. All right, so we have 2 bars. Pretty repetitive, right? What if I want to switch off? Like the first bar sounds cool. That sounds cool. 1 bar. What if the second bar, I want to bring in different chops and try something else? Like I heard. That sounds cool, right? I could probably bring that in on the second bar. I'm going to go to this grid editor. I'm going to look bar 1, bar 2. I'm going to loop bar 2 using this looper up here. And on bar 2, I might want to add. Let's get rid of these chops right here. Select that, hold down shift. I'm gonna hit cut and let's hit play. It's just gonna hit that first note. Now I can rehearse other 3 pads. Right there. I'm gonna add these 2. Hit record overdub. Awesome. Now I can get this looper and take it back to beat 1 or bar 1. So now we can hear these 2 bars and how they play together. That sounds okay. I actually didn't like this idea. I'm going to get rid of this, shift, cut. I'm going to leave it the way it was. Oh, maybe just the 2 last beats I can go, and then it goes back. Actually, that would sound better. I'm going to record that. That's much, much better. I like how that sounds. All right, so look, just to kind of go over everything we just talked about, me explaining the main page. Pay attention to the main page. Learn about the main page. Second of all, learn about the browser. Everything when I go into the browser, figure out on your own time, the Places tab, Content tab, Expansions tab, all that stuff. I go over all that stuff on my course. If you guys want all that information and nerd out with me, hang out with me on the course. We go over all that. But just pay attention to these steps that I'm doing. Secondly, your sampler. How do you sample? I kind of skimmed through this process and I showed you how I sample. Do not disregard this. This is a sampler. Pay attention to that. Third of all is your sequence or your grid editor. This is such an awesome page. I have a whole entire chapter dedicated to the grid editor, how I use it, how I nudge nodes back and forth, how I record one-shots. All that stuff is talked about on the course. Again, you don't have to purchase that. You could just watch videos right here for free. But these are important pages. That's all we talked about right now. And we already created something that sounds awesome. It sounds great. I'm happy with what I'm hearing. Obviously, the next step would be jumping into the arranger and start sequence or piecing all of this together and making a song. That's a whole entire separate video just talking about the arranger. Guys, I don't want to take up too much of your time. Thank you so much for making it to this part of the video. If you made it all the way to the end, I highly appreciate you hanging out with me. Thank you so much. Y'all have a blessed day. I'll catch y'all on our next one. Peace.